Hey, this is Billy Buck from WAME Radio, and welcome to the Iredell Walk for Recovery virtual event. Now, we have a great finale for you tonight, including recovery stories, music, and messages of support from community leaders. It was important to us to have this celebration still happen in a virtual format, even though this time of pandemic and restrictions on gatherings, to show support to those in recovery from substance use disorders and for those dealing with mental health issues, especially in these stressful times of isolation. To those of you who are struggling right now, know that many resources are available here in Iredell County, and you can learn more about those by clicking on the links in the post under this Facebook broadcast, or by looking at this month's 8 short videos with community leaders and experts on our Facebook page. We want to say thanks to our sponsors who made all of this month's online programming possible. On the silver level, ARMS, the Drug-Alcohol Coalition of Iredell, 5th Street Ministries, Iredell Free News, Jody Province Counseling, Partners Behavioral Health, Piedmont Healthcare, PQA, Southern Family Medicine, and WAME. And on the bronze level, the Center for Emotional Health and Turning Point. Well, to start our celebration of recovery, we have a personal story of triumph over addiction and ongoing recovery from Donald Knox, known to his friends at Celebrate Recovery as DK.
Hi, my name is Donald. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I'm here to give you probably a brief testimony of my story. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm grateful for Celebrate Recovery for having given me this opportunity to speak, about my recovery, because a lot of people out there need to hear that there is hope, that you can come back from substance abuse and mental health issues and, addictions and things like that. I'm a 7-time felon. I've been to prison 7 times. This last time I received 70 months. The second 70 months. I came to prison and I took recovery serious this last time. And I kind of made a promise to God that if He would help me with a lot of issues that I dealt with, then I would not go back to the way I used to be. And I've been out of prison now for nearly 3 years. I've kept the same job I've had. I've spoken at 4 different Celebrate Recoveries. I just celebrated my 8th year of clean and being sober. I still go down to the camp. I'm a volunteer with the state of North Carolina. I go in the prisons where I was going into this COVID came. I mentor youth in my neighborhood, and it's all due to the Celebrate Recovery. I even went through the 12-step Celebrate Recovery over there in Mountain View. That's like my home Celebrate Recovery. I've been going there over there with Brian and Brett, and I made friends with them while I was still incarcerated. But my testimony is this: I was on drugs real bad, and I had dared God to reveal Himself to me, because I had people who used to talk about they used to pray for me and all this and that, and man, I told them, hey man, God don't need you if He can reveal Himself to me Himself. And one day He did in a powerful way. I don't have time to explain that, but let's just say that started my walk, my acknowledging of who God is, and started a relationship when He done that. And since then, it been ins and outs and whatnot, but God has always been faithful. Me and my wife had just got us a new house down there in Conover. Never would imagine it. Like I said, I've been steady employed. Never would imagine that I could keep it. I never kept a job over 6 months. So it's just things that's happening in my life that has never happened. And I know that it's God, and it's like I'm living the dream, But I just want to say that for those who don't think that you have any hope, there is. I'm telling you, I am a living testimony. I mean, homelessness, I've been homeless. Man, I've been in jails, institutions, you know, and all that, man. And I didn't think at one time there was any hope. But come to find out there is. If you give God a chance, if you take one step toward him, he'll take the rest. I hope that, you know, anybody that heard a little piece of it, that it'll help you out.
Hey, thank you so much, DK. Your story is an inspiration to every person now in the process of mending relationships, overcoming addiction, and creating a happy, successful life, all of which is possible with personal dedication and encouragement from family, friends, and support groups. Now it's time for some entertainment from local entertainers Brice, Reese, and Coite Gullion. Take it away, guys.
Sometimes I wanna run away, close my eyes and think of better days, take it from the page of some happy ending tale. Rather wake up and live a lie than deal with half the things that I see outside, 'cause the whole world's lost it, far as I can tell. Erase the hate that's in your heart, erase the hate that's in your heart. We all won't change, well it's time to play your part, yeah. Erase the hate that's in your heart. No more shall we idly sit, scared to talk about religion and politics. Embrace one another as we learn and grow. We won't always see eye to eye, but on the other shoe there is a different side, a different point of view we could recognize. Erase the hate that's in your heart, erase the hate that's in your heart. We all won't change, well it's time to play your part, yeah. Erase the hate that's in your heart. Couldn't tell what year it was, 2019 or 1961, 'cause people out here still protest the same old things. And this has gone on for way too long. It's time we admit that there's something wrong. Could people take heed to what I have to say? Erase the hate that's in your heart, erase the hate that's in your heart. We all won't change, well it's time to play your part, yeah. Erase the hate that's in your heart.
Hey, thank you so much, Brice and Coite. You can follow them both on their Facebook pages to keep up with their latest shows. Our next guest is Brian King. He's the associate pastor at Christ Church and a coordinator for Celebrate Recovery, happening each Thursday night at 7 o'clock. It's at the church located at 2172 Wilkesboro Highway here in Statesville.
Hey folks, I'm Brian King. I'm the recovery pastor for Christ Church, and I want to thank you for tuning in to our Walk for Recovery month this month. And I know it's a little different than what we did last year, but hey, we're trying to make things happen, and that's what is so important in recovery. Is the biggest thing is just getting started. And through all this month, we're going to show and provide connections to resources and everything that's available in Iredell County, and to get you connected to recovery, because the biggest challenge in recovery is getting started and taking that step to get started with your recovery. And with everything going on in the world today and all the things that have gotten changed, and recovery meetings not happening and going to Zoom meetings and everything else, it's been very, very hard for you to stay connected to recovery, and even harder for folks to get connected to recovery. And that's the whole purpose of us trying to do this in any way that we can possibly do, and reach everyone through social media and everything else that we're doing. What I want to do today is just really encourage you as a recovery pastor is to get connected to people, places, and things that support your recovery. And we're fortunate enough in Iredell County to have DACI, which is essentially a coalition that funnels all the recovery resources into one spot and allows you to go to one place to get all the information you need to get started in your recovery. And that could be from a chemical addiction problem all the way through mental health issues and everything else that is just coming up during this whole COVID crisis, and everything that we're just being forced into isolation. Because isolation is one thing that we really don't want you to do in recovery, is isolate yourself. We want you to get connected to healthy groups with people, places, and things that support your recovery. It is so, so important to get connected, stay connected. And I actually heard this quote this week, but you can either make excuses or you can make progress. And what we want you to do each and every day in recovery is to make progress, no matter how small the steps are. The important thing is you're making progress, and you do that through staying connected to people, places, and things that support your recovery. And those are the questions you've got to ask is what are you connected to right now? Take the necessary steps to get to a group, whether it be an AA group, an NA group, or Celebrate Recovery. Any of the local groups will be glad to connect you. And they're there to offer the support that you need in a group setting, because you cannot do it on your own. You will never be successful on your own. The only way you'll be successful in a walk to recovery is being connected to a healthy recovery group.
Thank you, Brian, for your powerful words and supporting those in recovery. In our next segment, you're going to meet some folks from Celebrate Recovery and hear about their renewed hope, successes, and encouragement that they gained from the group. Now, they'll inspire you with their courage and strength to rebuild their lives through their recovery stories.
My name is Joshua, a grateful believer in Jesus Christ.
Hello everybody, I'm Brent. I am a grateful believer in Jesus Christ.
Hi, my name is Trina Dillard, a grateful believer in Jesus Christ.
And I'm Tamara. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with food addictions, anger, and control.
My struggles in the past have been with drugs and alcohol.
I struggled with Joshua, drugs, and anger.
Throughout my life, some struggles and several addictions of drinking, drugs, self-harm, depression, anxiety, and self-worth.
Coming up through school, I really struggled hard, so there was a lot of expectations on me coming up through school that I just could not stand up to. What I did was I learned a self-defense mechanism as a child where I just quit trying. I would rather be seen as a child that wasn't trying as opposed to a child that was trying and still failing. This stuck with me all through school. By junior high, I was into drugs and alcohol.
In and out of jail or drugs and abuse.
People ask you if you would ever go back to your childhood and this and that. I would be the one to answer no. And I wouldn't even wish it really on anybody. So as time went on and I grew older in my ages, that's where I just took care of my physical needs and drowned myself in the alcohol and the parties and just surviving from what I knew from my growing up.
By the time I was 20 years old, I'd had a couple run-ins with the law, and drugs and alcohol were no longer working for me. I found myself in a recovery group at age 20 in AA, my first AA meeting. I did manage to get sober at that time from the alcohol. However, I still continued a marijuana maintenance use. I didn't have the program exactly down pat. This would continue on through a series of circumstances. I would find myself as a career firefighter. My drug and alcohol use continued. Eventually, this would come to a head, and I would find myself back in a recovery group in the early 90s. This time I managed to come out of there and get completely sober. I got away from drugs, I got away from alcohol, but I drifted away from the program. I was no longer in recovery. After 15 years, I gave myself permission to drink again. And this led me right back into this series, this cycle of wash, rinse, repeat cycle of addiction. I found myself at my house. I was at my house and I was sitting in a chair. I had a pistol in my hand with one bullet in the chamber, and I really was ready to make a permanent solution to a temporary situation. At that point, I had my career was on the line, my wife was gone, I was about to lose it all, and I cried out to God for help.
I did realize a little while through all that it wasn't really, I seen other people out there, and I seen that, that's not the only lifestyle there is. Well, I had a friend, Cynthia. She's the one that wrote me in the military, and she kept me encouraged. And then her brother, Kenneth, and his mother, Melissa, they invited me into their home, and later on I eventually did marry Kenny, her brother. So he is my husband almost of 20 years. I'm gonna come up to about February of 2018. Through all the other time, I had not been addicted or not done drinking or anything for several years. And I came upon an injury and health issues and was prescribed medications, and then that took over. And pretty much that situation sent me into a place that I would never even see myself be before.
I don't think for us, the recovery journey was something that we had decided. It was something to where God had taken us to our very lowest point. What brought us here to North Carolina was actually a major car accident where he almost didn't survive. And at that point, you kind of look at things differently, and we had decided that we're all in.
God revealed some things to me, not so much what I had been doing as to what I had not been doing. And during my times in recovery in the past, I never really worked 12 steps as they were supposed to be worked. I had never helped another person. I had never helped another person with the affliction of addiction.
But it's just so important to be honest, to be able to walk in and be who you are and meet people that are the same and just people that know what you're going through.
And always great support in the small groups. When we go in there and talk, you feel comfortable, you're not judged, and you feel like you've known them forever because these type of people can relate to you when you have been through the same thing or similar things.
See, I took that 12th step very seriously, where it says, having gained an experiential awakening as a result of these steps, we carried the message. What we have to do in this recovery program, we have to really learn, we have to give away what was so freely given to us.
Our life's not perfect, it never will be, but I think that the tools that we've been given in these programs have definitely given us life, given us the ability to touch other people and to be able to pass on.
Many hope.
And it's a progress, not perfection. I think to what Paul said in Philippians 3:12, where he says, I have not yet achieved perfection, but yet I press on.
Wow, thank you so much for those inspiring words and stories. Remember that Iredell County has an amazing array of resources to help get anyone started on their path to recovery. In the post below, check out the 24-hour hotlines and the Drug-Alcohol Coalition of Iredell's Community Resource Guide to get you connected and start those first steps of the journey to recovery for you or someone you care about. For our next musical performance, we welcome singer-songwriter Dane Page, who has 2 albums out and is working on his 3rd. Now, he plays his original songs all over the region and is streaming shows online during the pandemic. So please welcome Iredell County native Dane Page singing Selma.
out to scheme. You were hard to hold, it like a lightning bolt. Your beauty was a sun I hadn't felt in days. Over top of my mountain she radiates. So tell me the things that I can't see. Are Selma, why you're falling for me? I ain't no burning tree. Are Selma, why you're falling for me? I was just a farmer's hand, putting my back in the land. Born in poor man's clothes off the Carolina coast. There ain't no apple in my hand, no roots where I stand. I ain't no king of the sky, don't even got much land. So tell me the things that I can't see. I sell them while you're falling for me. I ain't no burning tree. I sell them while you're falling for me. Oh, your curvy constellations pulling me in. There goes your heavenly body around my sun again. You said, reach for me, I'll never be far. You gotta stand on the moon just to see those stars. So tell me the things that I can't see. I sell them while you're falling for me. I ain't no burning tree. I sell them while you're falling for me. So tell me the things that I can't see. I sell them while you're falling for me. I ain't no burning tree. I sell them while you're falling for me.
Hey, thanks so much, Dane. That was a great song. And you can follow Dane on Facebook or go to his website at danepagemusic.com. Hey, we next welcome Sandy Tabor-Gray. She's a certified peer support specialist for the Community Response Support Team at Iredell EMS. Now, she'll tell her deeply moving personal story of substance use and recovery.
Hi, I'm Sandy Tabor-Gray, and I'm here to talk about recovery and the hope in recovery. I'm somebody in long-term sobriety. I started about in middle school, just innocent, getting into a friend's bar, parents' bar, and trying a couple drinks, and I knew I liked it, and that just became a very slippery slope for me, to the point where I went from that in middle school to trying other things, pot, and then eventually went into the harder drugs of barbiturates and quaaludes and cocaine. Nothing in my childhood foreshadowed that to come. I had two great parents, grew up in a great house, good schools, but I never felt like I met the bill, and it was a self-esteem thing. By the time I got in high school, I was doing it every day. It took my parents a little while to figure out what was going on. They never had any reason not to trust me. But once they did start catching on, then they were looking for it. And I became a liar and a thief, and at odds with my parents every day, mostly my father, to the point where they were always looking for things, and my senior year of high school was kind of like the last straw for them, and they admitted me to treatment. Back then it felt like a jail sentence, probably still does. And I went away for 30 days. It was towards the end of my senior year. But you know, I wasn't there for me. I was there because my parents were sick and tired of what I was doing. I didn't see what I was doing as a problem. I saw it that if you just minded your own business, we'd all be okay. So fast forward, getting out of treatment. The next year, unfortunately, I did not stay sober at that point. And the next year, I totaled a car, got a DWI. My father kicked me out of the house. It went downhill very fast. I became unemployable. I never knew where I was going to sleep towards the end, and was doing whatever I needed to do to be able to take care of myself. There wasn't a big bang or a big life event of what happened. For me, it was divine intervention, the right time. And I'd gotten another DWI, a second one, and I got introduced to some people in a 12-step recovery program. And from there, it just took off. I was sick and tired of living the life I was living, sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know, I held on to that 12-step program and those people. It saved my life. I eventually got those things that I had lost, like my family and the opportunity to go to college again, a place to live. I was able to gain all that back in a relatively short period of time. Recovery gave me a lot of opportunities. I graduated from Ohio State. I met a man. We got married. We just celebrated 30 years. I was able to have 3 children. And, you know, they were all raised in a Christian home. Big foundation of our lifestyle was mission work, and we traveled internationally. I really wanted them to understand how fortunate we were to live where we live. I say all that because I want people to know that there was nothing that, in the way my children were raised, that warned us of what was coming, other than I was somebody in recovery, so they had the predisposition. I wasn't prepared when it was my older son. You know, he changed me the day he was born. He made me a mom. And it was interesting because my kids were raised knowing, don't ever pick up a drink or a drug. Because my family and my husband's just was riddled with the disease of addiction. And so when Michael started going down that road, I wasn't surprised that he would try something. I was surprised at how fast it took hold of him and how similar his path was to my path. He started in middle school, went from, what seems to be innocent stuff, smoking cigarettes, to the harder drugs, stealing and lying to us. So that at one point, after he had just graduated from high school, that I said those same words that my father had said to me, and that was, "You are not welcome in my home anymore. You need to get out." That crushed me to have to say that. And I know it crushed him to hear those words, but the disease had him. And I was grateful that I understood the disease of addiction, that it was, that's what it was. It was a disease and it had hold of him. And we were willing to do whatever to get him help, but he had to be ready for it. And it wasn't too long, it was in October after he graduated that he went to treatment for the first time. At that point, he hadn't lost too much, just like I thought I hadn't lost too much. He had lost the respect of his family and his home and all that, but he needed to, he was ready to get help. But the way things happen, guy meets girl, and he got a woman pregnant, and she was pregnant with twins, and he was 18 years old. Another thing that just changed his life forever. He did the best he could with the skills that he had, but his go-to mode was always, when things were stressful or he couldn't handle life, was to turn to that drink or that drug. He had not found the hope in recovery like I had at that age. He struggled a couple more years. He went in treatment again. This time it had gotten a lot worse. Now he was shooting up heroin. Did I ever think that I would say that about one of my kids? Never in a million years. But that's where the disease took him, and he went to treatment, and we encouraged him not to come back home, not to come back to our town, that he needed to go and live somewhere else for sober living. He did that, and he was doing really well, but he came back, and he would come home on the weekends to see his kids. And one weekend in July, he came home. We had a wonderful day, and he went out that night. I had no idea what was coming. The next morning, woke up to find him dead. He thought he could do it one more time. He changed my life the day he came in, and he changed my life the day he left. But I still consider my story a story of hope. I found recovery at a young age, and it changed my life, and I've gone on to do great things. And I've lived the life that I know I've been called to live. My son wasn't lucky to get that. But I use his story to help out in the community, to help somebody else, because it does not have to end that way. There is recovery, there is a way out.
Hey, thank you so much, Sandy, for sharing that intensely personal story of hope and perseverance in the midst of heartbreaking loss. Well, our next guest is Statesville Police Chief David Addison. He's got some powerful words of encouragement and connection for our community.
Hi, my name is Chief David Addison with the Statesville Police Department. And this month is Recovery Month. recovery from mental illness, and substance abuse. As we are going through COVID, we've seen a lot of changes in determining what our new normal will be. But one of the most essential things I can ask you to do is to check on one another. That's very important because all of us are handling this differently. We're all looking at it from a different vantage point, and we need someone to make sure that they're tapping us on the shoulder to make sure that we're all right. Also, do not ever think that there's a problem with you raising your hand and saying, I need some help. Because we're going through some very unique times, whether it be economic, social, with social distancing, and new rules and regulations regarding wearing masks and making sure that you're keeping yourself and your family safe. So we're asking you during this month to check on one another. There's so many programs out in Iredell County, but as far as looking out for one another, that is the most important thing. You can tell when a family member or a neighbor or a good friend is not their normal self, when the stresses of life have gotten to them and they've gotten to the point where they look like they're in a little bit of despair. Take a second out of your day. Give them a call. Find out if there's something that you can help them with. And if it's beyond the scope of what you can provide help with, connect them to a program. Get some help for them. Make sure that they're taken care of, because that is our responsibility to each other, is to make sure that we're taking care of each other. I have a wonderful mantra for the Statesville Police Department. I am my brother and my sister's keeper, which means it's our responsibility to check on each other, to make sure that we're doing well. With the new changes that impacted just our department and our community, you can tell that it's impacting people differently. From the economic stresses of not being able to work, businesses that are closed down, and people are not being able to go back to their normal lives. Children thinking this is an extended summer. This is bearing heavily on some of the parents who are not used to having kids home during this entire year when they're trying to work around their work schedules and their other social schedules. Step in and help. That is the thing that I want to make sure I convey to everyone. You matter. Your life matters. Your help matters. So if you take a second out of your day to call someone, it doesn't always have to be someone in your circle. Sometimes we can look at people and tell they're not their normal selves. Take a second out of your day and give someone a call and just let them know that they're appreciated and see what they need. And if they need help, get them help. And if you are that person, there's nothing wrong with raising your hand and saying, I need help. My addiction, my problems, my stresses, my mental health, I'm not having a good moment right now. Raise your hand and ask for help. We will gladly be there. But if you're not that person that needs that dire help and you know someone that does, make sure you point resources in their directions so that we can help them. That's what we're here for. Thank you.
Great message, Chief. We need to reach out to our neighbors and our friends in these anxious and pressure-filled times and just connect. Let them know that we care. That outreach can really make a difference in someone's day. All right, time for some good music now. Please welcome well-known singer Rockie Lynne, who performed at last year's Walk for Recovery event. He'll be performing Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. I was blind, but now I see.
Rockie's wife, Susan Levy-Rash, also shared the personal story of her first marriage to an alcoholic. Joining a family support group helped her realize that her late husband's substance use disorder was a family recovery issue, not just his problem.
My name is Susan Rash, and I have a story of family recovery. My ex-husband was a problem drinker, and when we got married, we were in our 20s and everybody was drinking, so I didn't really realize that he had a problem when we first married. But as we grew up and had a family, I realized that I was settling down and he wasn't. So it became a problem later in my 30s that I noticed that his drinking was really starting to bother us. So I urged him to go to recovery, and he went to a treatment center. The first time it didn't take. The second time he went, and the people at the treatment center contacted me and asked me if I would come and participate in the family program that they had. And at first I was reluctant because I thought, well, this alcoholism issue is his problem, not my problem. Why do I need to go to a family program? But I went because I thought I would do anything I could if I could just help him get sober. And I went, and what I found through the family program was that alcoholism and drug addiction are a family disease, and they affect all members of the family, not just the person who is drinking or using. So I was able to go and learn a lot of things about myself, and I was able to learn things that I could do to control my own sense of peace of mind and serenity. And as a lot of people who love people who have drug or alcohol problems can attest, it really can be like living on a roller coaster. And through the work that I did in the family program, and then also later finding my own program through Al-Anon, which is a program of recovery for family members and people who love problem drinkers and addicts, I was able to find that I could control my own serenity and my own peace of mind, even while living with somebody who was actively drinking and using. And for me, that was huge. That was recovery for me. And I learned that I could set the emotional tone in my home. And I also learned that I didn't have any control over what that other person did. So all those things combined, I was able to really find my own sponsor. I was able to work the 12 steps from the Al-Anon perspective, and I was able to find peace and comfort in my home that I was then able to help teach my children. Because even though they told me in that program that there were only 3 outcomes, potential outcomes for the problem drinker in my life, and that was insanity, death, or recovery. Even though he was unsuccessful in his efforts to get sober, and when he passed away, I was able to not feel responsible. I was able to know that that was his journey that he was on, and that the journey that myself and my children were on was something completely different and separate from what affected him in his life. And that was also huge because so many people who love problem drinkers and alcoholics and drug addicts feel like there's something they could have done to make it better for that person. And that's why my recovery story is a story of hope, because I was able to find that I could live my life and not have to go down with that person and with their problem, and was able to teach my children a lot of the principles in Al-Anon that I think to this day has made them stronger and better adults and has given them a better understanding of the struggles that their father had to endure while he was struggling with his disease. So my message of hope to anyone who loves a problem drinker or an addict is to go to Al-Anon, find your own program, find your own peace of mind. The first time I walked into an Al-Anon meeting and I heard people speak, I couldn't believe that there was a room full of people who knew exactly what I was going through. They knew my heart, and they were able to help me by sharing their experience, strength, and hope with me. And I can say that I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't be the person that I am today if I didn't have that love and support from people inside those rooms.
Well, thanks so much, everyone, for tuning into our show tonight. Please share this program on your Facebook page to spread the word about the abundance of resources available to help those with substance abuse disorders, alcohol misuse, or mental health challenges. These folks are eager to support you. Again, thanks to our sponsors who made all of this month's online programming possible. At the silver level, ARMS, the Drug-Alcohol Coalition of Iredell, 5th Street Ministries, Iredell Free News, Jody Province Counseling, Partners Behavioral Health, Piedmont Healthcare, PQA, Southern Family Medicine, and WAME. And for our bronze level, the Center for Emotional Health and Turning Point. Now I want you to welcome Patti West of 5th Street Ministries with a closing message about encouraging recovery and helping those with mental illness in our community.
Good evening. I'm Patti West. I'm with 5th Street Ministries in Statesville. I appreciate you joining us this evening for our virtual recovery walk. This event has been held for the last 2 years, and we felt like it was so important that we couldn't let it go this year. So we're grateful that you have come with us, and I hope that you have learned something, that you have gained some knowledge for yourself, or that you can pass on to someone else. Substance abuse and mental illness are two of the most stigmatized issues in our society. We have to do better than that. There are people in our own community who are suffering in silence. There are families who are suffering because once an issue like this touches a family, it affects the whole family. And I'm here to tell you today that recovery is possible. It is something that is very real, but it's also very hard, and it's something that cannot be done without a support system. Whether it be a family support system, whether it be a 12-step support system, wherever that support system needs to come from, in order to have a successful recovery, there has to be a strong system in place. And to do that, we have to get rid of the stigma. We have to get rid of shaming people because they can't stop using drugs, or shaming people because they can't just put down the alcohol, or shaming them because their mental illness isn't under control. It's not an easy process to happen. It's not an easy thing for people to do, and they need all of us and all of our arms around them as they walk through that process. That can't be done if we're judging them. So I encourage you to learn about the issue that's facing you or your family or your next door neighbor. I encourage you to reach out to DACI for information on how best to help this person that you know is suffering, how best to help this family that is grieving for the loss of their loved one to one of these issues. And it doesn't have to be to death. You can lose a loved one to addiction. I invite you to walk with us as we carry the message. As we carry the message for recovery to folks who are caught in that trap, I encourage you to carry the message to the families who need some sort of hope to grasp onto. I encourage you to become a part of a community that no longer stigmatizes addiction and mental illness, but walks with our friends, with our family, as they move forward to recover and to build a better life for themselves. It ultimately affects all of us.